Picture this, an F-35 stealth fighter slicing through the clouds somewhere over the Pacific. Untouchable, right? But deep inside its actuators, its radar, its power systems, there's a secret. Tiny metal atoms that one country has almost completely monopolized.
You know, for all the talk about hypersonic missiles and cyber attacks, what if the most potent weapon in a future war is something you could hold in the palm of your hand? Something that seems, well, kind of mundane, but is absolutely essential. That's right, a magnet. And this is the whole idea behind what's being called a sovereign weapon. It's not a piece of military hardware. It's a choke point in a supply chain so critical that controlling it gives you immense power over your rivals. And today, we're going to dig into how that power was built and just how real this threat actually is.
All right, so to really get this, we have to go deeper. We need to look at the invisible elements that form the very backbone of modern military tech.
We are talking about rare earth magnets. The superstar here is the neodymium iron-boron magnet. It's the strongest we can mass produce. But here's the really crucial part. You add just a pinch of another rare earth, dysprosium, and suddenly that magnet can hold its strength in brutal temperatures. You know, perfect for the inside of a jet engine or a missile's guidance fins.
And the scale of this dependency? It's just staggering. A single F-35 has nearly 1,000 pounds of these elements. A Virginia-class submarine needs over 4.5 metric tons. This isn't some minor ingredient, you see. It's a fundamental building block for the most advanced hardware in the world.
And I love this quote, and just perfectly sums it up. These modern weapons aren't just steel and explosives anymore. They're incredibly complex systems that are utterly dependent on these unique materials. So the big question is, how did one country end up with his hand on this invisible choke point?
Well, this definitely didn't happen by accident. Building this kind of monopoly was the result of a deliberate, decades-long strategy.
It really started back in the 80s. China invested heavily, using low prices and state support to undercut pretty much all of its global competitors. Western mines closed down, and this is key, the expertise in separating these incredibly tricky elements it migrated. By the 2010s, we started to see the first signs of how this dominance could be used as leverage, like when reports surfaced of an informal export halt to Japan during a political dispute.
This chart right here really reveals the true nature of the choke point. I mean, mining is one thing, China's at about 70%, but just look at the separation of heavy rare earths like dysprosium. That's the key ingredient for those high-temperature magnets. China controls effectively 99% of that capacity. Think about that. If you want those magnets, you have to go through China.
And this control is actually tightening. New regulations are expanding from just raw materials to the finished magnets themselves, to the parts they're in, and even the technology used to make them. It's a clear move to assert control over the entire magnetized value chain.
And that brings us right back to this central concept, the sovereign weapon. It's not a bomb, it's not a tank, it is a state-controlled choke point, and it's designed to exert pressure. See, unlike a big, noisy oil embargo that hurts everybody, including the supplier, this kind of weapon is surgical. It targets a tiny, difficult-to-replace component that's buried deep inside a defense system. The initial economic harm to the supplier is low, but the ripple effects for the target, they can be massive. So let's just game this out for a second. Imagine a 90-day disruption. Inventories, which are often just in time, would run out fast. One analysis suggests nearly 80% of defense contractors could be forced to halt production. The assembly lines for the world's most advanced fighter jets and missiles would just grind to a halt.
And hey, this isn't just some theoretical exercise. We've already had a very real-world warning shot.
Back in 2022, the Pentagon actually had to halt all deliveries of the F-35. Why? They discovered a magnet made with a Chinese-sourced alloy. It violated U.S. sourcing laws, and it took a national security waiver to get the line moving again. The incident really exposed just how deep this dependency runs, and it directly led to a new law banning these magnets from U.S. weapons by 2027.
Okay, so the threat is clearly real. The potential for disruption is there. But let's ask the question, how powerful is this weapon really? It's time for a little reality check.
The hype out there suggests some kind of permanent magnet kill switch. The reality is, well, it's more like a temporary but very, very painful chokehold. It probably can't paralyze an entire military forever, but it can absolutely disrupt production and delay critical programs at the worst possible time. This isn't some unstoppable plot. It's a high-stakes race between dominance and diversification.
And let me tell you, the world is scrambling to diversify.
Companies like Linus in Australia and Malaysia are now huge players. Here in the US, MP Materials is rebuilding a full mine-to-magnet supply chain from the ground up, and new projects are coming online all over the globe.
And on top of that, we're seeing a huge push in both technology and policy. Researchers are working on developing magnets that need less or even no dysprosium. That 2027 ban is forcing supply chains to reroute. And of course, strategic stockpiles are being built to cushion the blow of any future disruption.
So, where does all this leave us? Well, this isn't some simple story of total dominance. It's the beginning of a very real and very consequential race.
So here's the final verdict. Could China flip a switch and instantly paralyze the US military? No. But could a strategically timed disruption cause real pain, delay critical programs, and potentially tilt the balance in a crisis? Yes, absolutely. That window of vulnerability is real, especially over the next few years.
So this idea that one country just owns the future of war, it's too simple. The reality is a race between entrenched dominance on one side and a global scramble to innovate and diversify on the other. Every new mine, every lab breakthrough, every new alliance, it all matters.
And that leaves us with a pretty crucial question to think about. In a world of visible threats, of jets and ships and missiles, could it be that the real balance of power is actually determined by these invisible materials and who controls them?